Thank you so
Thank
much. I really appreciate the introduction, and thank you so much for inviting me to speak again at this great conference. I believe 3 or 4 years ago, I think I already presented, and I really enjoy talking at the conferences and sharing knowledge and meeting all of you guys. Today is a pleasure again to be here and share some of the interesting topics. And I appreciate all of you guys. I know it's already late. Many of you guys probably hungry, want to go for dinner, but you utilized your weekend to learn a lot, right? To gain knowledge, to understand more topics. So this is always, very impressive and appreciated. And I'm sure it's going to be more and more people, because we're learning every day, we gaining knowledge every day. It's all about learning. We should never stop learning. So the topic which I choose for today, and again, there's a lot of topics which I wanted to cover and touch, but this topic is extremely important, because I believe that there is a lot of controversial aspects of metrics. There is some people believe in metrics, some people unfortunately do not believe in metrics, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, we can have different opinions on metrics, but the idea here is to explain why metrics are important, so you guys will understand. Because if you will just hear metrics does not really make sense or not helping, and you will not truly understand the benefits of it, how other people are benefiting from metrics, and what kind of decision-making process are behind the metrics, you will never understand the importance of it, and as a result of it, you will not be using it, right? So the key here is, not to force you to start using metrics, but actually try to understand why metrics are important, okay? So let's start. You guys can see my screen, correct? So I'm not going to spend too much time. I already got the introduction. If you guys wanted to talk more, I'm always open for discussions. So you can reach me on LinkedIn. You can send me an email, desyatnikov@qamentor.com. Ask any questions. I always find time to respond and reply to any questions. We can have also conversation over the phone, Skype, and anything else. I'm open to answer any of your questions. So let's skip this slide. That's not really important. So since this is virtual, conference, I would like you guys, to answer this question. There's 2 questions. So how many of you are using metrics on a regular basis and believe in metrics? And how many of you do not believe in metrics? So I'm not sure if you guys can type there. Would be very interested to understand, your, answers here. So if you believe in metrics and you utilizing and leveraging metrics, you should, put 1. And those of you who, do not believe in metrics, not using metrics, don't think that metrics are really useful for you, for the organization, you can press 2. I would be very interesting to understand.
So we have responses in chat, Ruslan.
Yes. I see them.
Great.
Very good. I see once, I see 2, I see some comments, believe in metrics, but there is a way to interpret it. Very good. Mostly 1 so far. Don't be shy, guys. If you don't believe in metrics, that's perfectly fine. And that's the reason why we're here. I will try to explain you why metrics could help you and you can benefit out of this. Again, we can agree, we can disagree. Again, this is all perfectly fine. Many people think where, if I agree to something, then you have to also agree to this. Absolutely not. Everybody has their own personal opinions and views and strong views, and we should all respect that. All right, so I see mostly 1. Well, overall, if we survey, for example, or we put the poll on LinkedIn, there will be sort of, I would not guess it would be equally distributed, but we will see some 2s, quite often as well. So it's okay if you think it's, metrics are not really useful. That's the idea of this, discussion. All right, very good. So let's not spend a lot of time here. For those of you who participated, I really appreciate your opinion. Let's get going. So I'm conducting a lot of interviews. Every day we're interviewing people, we're hiring people around the world. And before we approve anybody, I'm actually the last person, to speak with the candidate. I always like, to talk to people, understand who we're hiring, right? So my questions, and I don't know if some of you tried, interviewing at QA Mentor or speak with me before. My favorite questions at the interview, some of my favorite questions is, how do you measure your quality success? How do you know you bringing benefits? How do you know you're effective and efficient at work, right? What does success look like for you at the quality side, right? And it's a challenging question. It's not an easy question to answer, right? But I wanted to understand thinking about this question, right? What people are thinking behind, right? So that's the question. So we will try to answer. I'll help you guys to answer these types of questions if you will ever be asked by senior managers or people who will be interviewing you. How do you know you valuable? How do you know you're doing a good job where you are right now? How do you know you will bring efficiencies and effectiveness to the organization? I mean, is it a fair question to ask? I think yes. So this is just the voice of the testing community. Again, as I mentioned before, some people agree to metrics to leverage, and not only leverage, but benefit from them. That's the critical aspects of it. And some people think metrics are not really properly calculated. You cannot really get anything out of this. So I just want you to, I captured some of the comments from LinkedIn, for the most part, what people are saying. Good things, bad things, agreeing, disagreeing. Just want you to take a look and see. So metrics do not provide accurate picture. People who are using metrics are micromanagers. People who are using metrics do not trust their employees. Metrics impact morale. Metrics are just a waste of time and used for CYA purposes. Metrics are contributing towards better estimations and predictions. Metrics help to continuous process improvements. Metrics help to measure progress. Metrics help to identify gaps. Metrics help to measure return on investment. Metrics help to measure productivity. Metrics help to measure efficiency and effectiveness. So you see, we have different perspectives on metrics, right? They all, you can say valid or maybe invalid, right? You guys will judge, okay? That's the idea behind this session. I don't want you to buy my opinion on metrics or say, oh, Ruslan said that, that's the truth. No, you have your own opinion. You decide what you want to do. You decide you want to use it. You decide you're not going to use it. You decide you can gain something out of this, or you just, ignore it, right? It's your opinion. So let's start. Now, I'm going to show you some of the metrics, okay, which I personally, okay, were collecting, not when I, started to run QA Mentor Global Testing Company, but also when I was a regular tester back in the days when I started my career. Now, obviously not from the first year when I was a junior tester. Throughout the years, I gained more understanding on why metrics are important and why do I really need to use metrics. Okay, so let's just discuss the specifically test effectiveness of a tester, and I will explain you, the thinking process behind. And you can ask any questions and you can challenge me, please. That's the whole purpose of this conversation. So test effectiveness of the tester. This is what we're measuring. This is what I feel it's really good and important measure factors and can really provide you some insights on productivity and effectiveness. This is more about effectiveness. The next slide will be more about productivity. So let's concentrate on that. So we're measuring the defect leakage against user story, defect leakage against assigned functionality, defect leakage assigned modules, right? You all part of the user story. Somebody is assigning you user story, you're supposed to test it, you're building the test cases, you're making sure everything is done and complete, right? So the user story classified as done, right? We assigning regression testing, or you starting the regression testing, for example, for a particular area. There might be defect leaked, right, from that area. So we're measuring defect leakage against assigned regression testing cycles. We're measuring the scheduled variance for a tester. Why it's important, I'll tell you. So you promise, right, that you're going to complete certain tasks and activities on this date, or it will take you that number of hours or that number of days, right? You're committing to this. It's important to measure that. Why? Not to penalize you. Yeah, you will be, for example, late by 1 to 2 days. That's okay to be late. That's perfectly fine. But it will give you a food for thought next time why you underestimated certain tasks, right? You targeted for December 4th, you completed December 7th. Why? What is the root cause of this? What are the analyses which you will make? Why are you late? Are you late because you just simply didn't estimate this properly? Or you late because you have multiple obstacles? Or you late because somebody promised you some preconditions you need to meet in order to complete your task? There's multiple things why you can be late. But don't you think it's good to measure, whether you're late or not late? So next time, maybe you will be better in estimations. Maybe you will be better in your prediction. Maybe you will better in mitigating risks or trying to understand, well, there are certain risks why I can be late. So I need to build these risks in. What will happen next time? Maybe the same risk will reappear again, right? So I will know how to mitigate them immediately, and will be able to move forward, and maybe I will be achieving what I promised to achieve, right? So this is all important to me. Effort variance, again, schedule variance, whether you will complete this on time or not, or effort variance, if it takes me 10 hours to complete test design preparation or test data preparation or test execution of this user story, right? And it's actually taking you you spend 15 hours on this. Well, you underestimated. Nobody will kill you for this. Nobody will penalize you for this. That's perfectly fine. But don't you think it's good to know why you're 30% underestimated, of your effort, right? What causing this? If you estimated this for 10 hours and it took you 15 hours, right? Why do we need this, right? Why do we need this? We need this for better estimations. We need this for better predictions. Again, I'm running QA Mentor global testing company. I have obligations in front of my clients to complete certain things on time because they're asking, Ruslan, how long it's going to take? How long it's going to take to complete test preparation, for example? How long it's going to take to complete testing? How long it's going to take to complete performance testing, security penetration testing? How long it's going to take to complete those 15 test cases which we set apart for health checks to automate? How long? They want to know. Now, from my side, I want to be smart about my predictions. I want to be intelligent in providing an accurate estimation. Why? For a number of reasons. Reason number one, I don't want to be, behind my estimations, meaning that, I will not be accurate in this estimations, right? Why? Because they're expecting if we spend 10 hours, they will pay for this 10 hours. If we're spending 15 hours, they have to pay 50% more. Is it fair for them to pay 50% more if we already estimated this and provided them that estimation? I don't think so. That's why there are different models. There's a fixed price cost involved. There's time and material where we can charge money for it. But this is just QA business. All of you not running QA business yet. You can try, and I wish you guys to try as well when you feel comfortable. I want as many more entrepreneurs to be, in this world, because it's fun, it's difficult, it's risk, but at the end of the day, it's also rewarding. But the key here is you need to understand, right? You need to understand for future purposes, the historical perspectives, right? You can analyze all of this data. You can analyze and understand, well, you assign this to this person, for example, and it will take him or her 2 days. The other person will take 3 days. That's perfectly fine. Some people are slow a little bit, fast, very fast. It's normal. We're all humans. We all are different, right? but it's perfectly fine if I know that it will take this person that many hours, but the other person maybe less. That will help us to estimate better. That will help us not to make mistakes in our predictions, in our communications to the clients, in our estimations. That's extremely, extremely important. And that's why, based on those metrics, based on the historical metrics, based on those data points, based on those KPIs, we can be more intelligent in providing information, again, to our customers and clients. In your case, you have internal customers and clients, right? You have the business who is your client internally within the organizations. You have, stakeholders. You have maybe product owners who basically your customer, right? You have a development team who might be acting as your customer, right? You have multiple different people within the organization. It's not only, within QA industry, if you're working as a part of the testing company, you have clients. No, you have a lot of clients internally, right? So that's the idea. So let's just continue down the road. So defect rejection rate, percentage of defect rejection rate. Well, I wanted to know defect rejection rate. Why? Because it will show me that, some of the testers might not interpret the requirements the proper way. So they think this is a defect, but it's not a defect, right? Again, nobody will blame them for that. Nobody will actually cut their salaries or not give them the bonus. No, but we need to understand what is missing from our testers' interpretation on the requirements. Why this person has a very high rejection rate versus the other person. Doesn't mean that he is bad, right? Doesn't mean that he is bad or he or she is doing bad job. It's just we're trying to understand why interpretations of the requirements is a little different, where the missing points are. So if I don't know if this person not fully understanding the requirements, I cannot help that person. Do you understand? I cannot help and improve that person or spend time for that person to understand. If I don't know this, how do I know that that person needs some help? The metrics will help you guys. Number of suggestions, recommendations, improvements raised by a tester, right? This is important. This is not just blindly we finding UI cosmetic issues and making numbers that we have 100 defects. To me, suggestions, recommendations, improvements, it's very valuable. Maybe even more valuable than just a simple defects. Why? Because that shows you're thinking deeply about the product. You're trying to understand and be a user to understand what those functionalities can bring you, what additional capabilities, usability aspects can be bring to the table for the customers. So those areas, extremely important to measure. How many of you guys are measuring those, right? Not a lot, I can guarantee you, not a lot. But that kind of information, that kind of statistics are really helpful because that shows the tester is really thinking outside of the box. The tester really not just trying to find the problems and report this problem and that's my job. No, you're thinking much different. You're thinking as the owner, as a product owner of the application, which you as a tester can improve, can make it better, right? Can make it successful, that users out there will be utilizing these applications in the future the proper way. Not from the quality perspective, because we can release software to production, 0 defects. no leakages at all, it does not constitute success. Absolutely not. If you design something which is, not according to the business expectations and requirements, and it has 0 defects, there's no success of this feature which got released, or the product or report which capturing completely invalid data, or information is irrelevant. Report has no defects. Yes, it's capturing data, but is data meaningful? That's the question. So that's why it's super important. Percentage of suggestions, recommendations approved raised by tester. Number of critical, serious, medium, low defects identified per sprint, release, week, months. This is all kind of, captured information and data. Why it's important? Very simple. This is important where we can see, again, not for the penalizing purposes. We can see consistency. We can see that somebody constantly finding defects and somebody not finding defects. I give you an example. So we have a big regression testing cycle, scheduled and functional testing of the new release for one big client, okay? So on the functional testing, we put people, and we always do freestyle testing, exploratory testing after we complete and execute all the test cases, which we define first, right? We do freestyle testing, again, to make sure as exploratory testing to find issues, to find problems, where everybody can participate. And what we see is release after the release, some people don't find defects at all, and some people finding those defects at all. So I got the results and I see the trend. We have 2-3 resource employees which not finding defects, where again, if I'm assigning you to a module where developer has created and coded perfectly and has no problems, there is no issue, there is no defects. So you have no chances. But when everybody have chances during this freestyle sessions, which I called, where you can do whatever you want with the application and play around and break it and do whatever you want, you explore them, right? And you don't find anything, where your peers are finding something, it gives me some food for thought. Why are you not finding those issues, right? What is the problem? Again, not to penalize or fire that person. No, I want to understand why that person not seeing what other people are seeing as a problem, and help out to direct that person to understand and see those problems, not to open the eyes wider or give it glasses to say, oh, you got to look and find defects. No, that's not the case. But without this information, I cannot do anything. I cannot help. I cannot improve my own team. Do you understand this? Now, number of static testing defects identified, per user story, per release, per sprint. Again, we had a separate topic on static testing. I know not many organizations applying static testing, not doing formal static testing, where you identifying gaps and problems and issues within the requirements, right? This is extremely important. This is a separate topic for the conversation by itself. But when you're reviewing requirements, I'm giving you requirements and I'm giving somebody else requirements, same requirements or user story giving to somebody else. Why one person identify gaps and identify problems within requirements where they see, this field, there is no business rules behind, there is no field validations, there is no error messages, or this error message does not make any sense, or this report, why it's not capturing this particular data point, right? Why somebody's asking those questions and somebody else just reading this as a Bible and believing in everything what is there, right? Without this information, without the data, without statistics behind, I will not know that this person who not seeing issues with the requirements need help. And we have training for static testing. I created the course, The Importance of Static Testing and Achieving High ROI. For those of you who didn't attend it, I give this course for free. There is no cost associated with this. I gift it to the testing community so you can leverage and use this, because that will bring value to you. That will bring value to your organization, because you can detect and prevent issues at this requirement stage, at the user story level. Okay, please, if you didn't see this yet, ask me. I will send you, the link to the course. Actually, you can go to QA Mentor website, QA University, and register for this course free of charge. It will arm you so powerfully with ammunition to detect problems and issues within the requirements phase. That's important, not just at the latest stage during system acceptance testing, system integration testing, but at the requirements definition. Whether it's agile or waterfall approach, does not really matter. You will know how to inspect requirements. Sorry, we moved a little bit off the topic. So that's the test effectiveness of the tester. Let's continue. This is the big one. This is where I got a lot of pushback on LinkedIn from some of the people, right? Why, Ruslan, why the hell are you talking about of measuring test cases? Why? Test cases are always different. Test cases are, whether it's a UI or the, I said, yeah, of course. We're not comparing apples to oranges here, right? In order to get more meaningful information on what we're measuring, we have to be specific in that measurements. We have to consider multiple different attributes, right? So that's the idea behind here. I'm not measuring, oh, how many test cases you created? You said 12. What 12 means? What types of test cases? Are they complex? Are there, high complexity, medium complexity, low complexity, right? Are they UI related where you can create, 100 test cases per day, or they're backend database related where you have to write queries and it's taking longer, right? And it's more complex. Or it's integration where you have to go upstream the system, downstream systems and check the data and the flow, and that's much longer, right? Or you need to wait for the batch processing to kick in, and that's even longer because you have to wait some time, right? There's so many different nuances behind, but not measuring it, I will tell you why it's a mistake, not measuring it. So once again, your manager, right? You committing to something. You want to provide estimation on how long it's going to take you to complete compatibility testing on this mobile device or on this browser, right? You need to provide this information because based on your information, the project plan is getting completed, right? The communication and expectations is getting communicated to the client, right? Based on those information. So how do you know how long it's going to take you to complete this, right? Are you going to guess? It's like, I'm doing a renovation. Now, I don't know if some of you know, I moved from New York to Florida recently. So I'm doing a renovation, right? Before I start the renovation, I invited people. They came in, people who will redesign this whole thing. People came in, they look around, they go into the up floor, down floor, look around, and they said, this is the price, okay? Some others start measuring with the measure tape, the walls, everything. They spend like 3 hours measuring this, right? Now, this is where the interesting thing is, if you're a professional expert, right? If you're a professional expert, you can give that estimation without measuring this, right? So if you're really have multiple years of experience under the belt, you can predict, right? To say, well, it's going to take me 3 days to complete painting those 2 rooms, for example, right? And for some others, they're measuring it not to make mistake. Now, in this particular case, measurement in this particular case, not so crucial, because if you're already expert, if you already completed thousands of houses, and this one of the houses is similar as one which you already completed based on the historical perspective, you will know how long it took you, right? Because that's coming from the history. That's not something new, right? You can refer back to the history. But if you don't know, if you don't have that much experience, if you don't have 20 years of experience under the belt testing thousands of applications in different industries, right? Then it becomes difficult for you to estimate. So in order for you to estimate, you should know either your own capabilities in terms of the speed. So for instance, if I'm designing on average, for example, 50 UI test cases, right? That's basically the standard average for me. So next time, if we're going to do the estimation and we'll say, okay, we need to design 200 test cases, right? UI test cases for this application based on the wireframes, based on Figma and screenshots and all of this, right? Then you will know if your rate of productivity is 50 test cases relating to UI only, then it will take you 4 days. That's, again, a good information to provide to your manager, to whoever, so they can collect this information, because it's not only your information and other people's information, and then build a proper estimation model, and then price the client if you want, or not only price the client, let's forget about QA business, which I am in, okay? Let's talk about communication to your stakeholders within your organization. IT is communicating to the business, right? Somebody needs to communicate. This is how long it's going to take. So if you don't know how many rooms you can paint per day, right? That person who provides me the information for the estimation of my house can make mistake and can underestimate and make less money, for example, or they can overestimate and charge and overcharge me as well, right? So that's the reason why we're breaking this into the different subset and different categories on a test case level: API, functional positive, functional negative, integration, database. Again, for the purposes to learn and have the data points, historical data points for the future to be more accurate. And in planning, in estimation, in prediction, in budget formulation, that's the idea, guys. That's the idea. This is not just some kind of numbers, flashing numbers for your managers just to show. No, this is all obsolete. This is unnecessary. We're doing this for our own benefits, guys. We're doing this to be smarter, to be intelligent in providing accurate estimation and prediction purposes. So we will not underestimate things or overestimate things or finish project late and be always behind and stay at the and work 15, 16 hours and come on the weekends because somebody promised on your behalf without asking you for the input on the estimation. They made this number up and say, we're going to complete this testing on December 15th. Excuse me, did you ask me how much it's going to take me? You assigning me something to be part of this project, but you never asked me for any estimation. How can this be? But you committing for me. That's not fair. So if we all would be able to provide that commitment and estimation, then that person only will say, yes, thank you for the data, thank you for the data, thank you for the data. I consolidate this. Now I intelligently can present this to the business on a timeline. What's happening now? The timeline is already decided and we're working backwards from this. So you have no chances. I'm sorry, you have 2 days to complete this. But Rushika said, but 2 days, it's very short period of time. I cannot possibly complete it. We already communicated this. I'm sorry. Is it fair game? No. But this is not fair game. Why? Because you're not collecting those metrics. You're ignoring them. You have no data points. You have no historical, information in order to provide this information. Do you understand? And the more you will ignore and forget about all these metrics, thinking that metrics useless and they bring no value and they're just evil and they're for micromanagers and they're for people like Ruslan who will decide, oh, this person is good and this person is not good just because he find less defects or he find executed less test cases. That's not true, guys. That's not true. Do you understand? So the final one, the testing execution productivity. Why we like this? Why we measure this? Again and again. We wanted to understand on average, what is your throughput? We wanted to understand for prediction purposes. If I choose Rushika and Jaish Patel and, somebody else, part of this team to support, I know their productivity levels. They know also their productivity levels, and that will help us with the schedule. That will help us with the estimation. That will help us with some maybe pushback to say, well, you want this to be done by this day. That's not possible. I'm sorry. That's not possible. Either add more resources to it or extend the date. And you have the right to say that. Why do you want to accept this and fail and deliver something, to production with problems, right? If you would show this, look, on average, I'm capable of executing for UI or functional test cases or API test cases or database test cases, that many test cases. And again, it shouldn't be accurate to a millisecond or to the point. Yeah, in the estimations, they could be error, which is fine. I'm not saying that this is the perfect accurate number, but if you're not going to measure it, it's even worse, guys. You will have nothing to justify. Do you understand? You will have absolutely nothing on the table to justify your points that, well, you got to take a little more time. That's not going to work, right? Why it's not going to work? And here's why. When you're going to show estimation, look, we just did the similar project. We have 120 test cases. Out of 120 test cases, we have that many UI related, that many functional, positive, negative, end-to-end. You have some kind of historical. You already have information. And look, it took us 3 months. For example, this is almost equivalent project. Let's say it's slightly smaller, but you want to finish in 1 month. We have 3 months and 1 month. This doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. But if you don't have data points, how can you argue with somebody? And you need to argue. Why? Because they will set you for failure. They will force you to complete testing with unreasonable time. And because it's unreasonable and force you to work 14 hours and weekends and you still will be behind, the result will be absolutely disaster. And it's going to be your fault, not somebody else's fault. Your fault, you know why? Because you didn't show. You didn't send the email documented to say, look, it's absolutely not possible to complete this. We will have even 5 people. This is the output and this is the throughput of those resources, right? Which can be achieved. And it doesn't add the numbers to the schedule. It doesn't make sense. It will never be able to achieve this. You see, when you have the substantial data points, the substance of measurements and factual data from the previous historical releases, and you all know what you're capable of doing, and I am as a manager know what the throughput is, that this person is a little slow, which is fine, and he or she will do less 10% or 20% than the other people. That's fine. But I counted this. I included this. Do you understand? I included this into the equation to calculate and provide this information. Any questions, guys?
Guys, any questions? And Ruslan, time check.
Yeah, I ended. I know it took longer as always. I cannot finish on time. There's so many different things I wanted to say also, but I just wanted to send you that message so you guys will not just think, oh, metrics are bad. metrics are just for covering your back, and it's useless and you cannot really get anything, and that's not accurate. And you cannot measure testers based on the metrics. That's not fair. This is against principles. This is, unethical. I mean, I'm hearing this all the time, and I'm shocked because people don't really truly understand the real deal for this, right? And that's why I try to explain you guys why metrics for me are important. Your choice, what do you want to do, right? And what do you want to gather? But I just explained my story, why I use metrics and why my guys also love metrics, because it brings them value and benefits.
So can I ask you one question, Ruslan? Just
Please, Eddie.
so we see so many of them, Ruslan. Do you think that these are too many, or no? These are something that
you can select some of them, whatever you prefer. It looks a lot, but it's collection. It's not a lot really, but I like to cover them all because they really brings a complete set of the picture, right? But you guys can take whatever you want, subset of it, maybe few of them. It's your choice, whatever you prefer. Again, the bottom line is, why are we measuring? For what purposes? And that's what I explained, in this presentation.
Very nice. I think this was wonderful session. Guys, any questions for Ruslan? Otherwise, I think Ruslan is anyways, it's very early. What time is it, Ruslan, for you there?
No, it's actually fine. It's 9 o'clock. So it's perfect.
Not bad. But on a Sunday morning,
I'm working around the clock, so it doesn't matter. I don't even know it's 9 o'clock or 9 p.m. or 12 p.m. It's the same time.
No, we appreciate it. Was basically a few years back, QA Mentor was also our sponsor. And we really appreciate whatever you do for the community. You have been so friendly to us and everybody. As you rightly said, that anybody could reach you. You would always respond. You would always help. And that's one thing that I love about Ruslan, guys. And you guys can always reach out to him. There are folks asking what would be the course links. Ruslan, if you can share in the chat, that would be good if possible. Otherwise, you can connect with him on LinkedIn, guys. He's as he says, works around the clock.
Let me post the link, or I send it to you. I did the link, and you can share to everybody else.
Okay? Yes, we can do that. Yeah, that can be done.
Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it. I know it's hard to to be there for the entire day, but again, those types of conferences makes you stronger, make you better, make you competitive compared to the other people who just playing cricket and decided not to come here today. They missing a lot of knowledge, guys. So bravo to you guys for coming in and listening and learning this. And Adita and his team doing fantastic, creating those events. It's extremely, extremely important, because a lot of good information you can learn. And instead of reading 20 books in this, not this my session, I'm not talking about my session, you decide whether it's useful or not. Other people's session, I saw a lot of interesting topics and a lot of great speakers are there. This is like massive. In one day, you can learn what back in the days when I started 26 years ago, there was not too many conferences there. I learned this by myself, making mistakes, learning, making mistakes. Here, you have so much wealth of information from such a great people. I mean, this is the place to be. This is the place to gain knowledge quicker. Instead of 5 years, you gain this in 8 hours. Imagine that. You gain what people would never gain in 5 years time frame. What you gain today, I guarantee you this. Do you understand? So we'll have more of those. And again, thanks, Adita, for inviting me.
Thank you so much.
Not many people inviting me because of those topics. They don't want to hear what I have to say sometimes, which is perfectly fine. And you were brave enough to invite me.
I think, look, see, what I appreciate, Ruslan, is that you have basically assimilated all this information in 3 slides. And people can take notes. And it is up to them, as you rightly said, to choose which metrics they really want to use. This is basically, as you rightly said, an extract of the knowledge that you are practically using in your organization. Being a CEO of your organization, running a large QA organization, being an entrepreneur, you're sharing the wealth in 3 slides. Amazing. I would say this has been wonderful knowledge sharing and a wonderful session as such.